Please welcome to the stage Global Head of AI at Colgate-Palmolive, Kli Pappas, and Retool Head of Technical Account Management, Elizabeth Ray.
Woo! Was I supposed to do that? I don't think so. Welcome everybody to a conversation that we have all been looking forward to. I'm Elizabeth Ray, Head of Technical Account Management at Retool, and I am thrilled to be joined today by Kli Pappas, Colgate's Global Head of AI and Predictive Analytics. Kli, thank you so much for taking the time to share your experience and insights with everybody here today.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Great to be here on this fireside chat. I was promised a fire. I was hoping for a tea light, but maybe we'll make it happen. But it's great to be here.
We kind of under-delivered on that front. So we are all here at Summit today exploring the future of enterprise AI app development, and Colgate's journey has really been particularly fascinating. When Colgate originally came to Retool, 12 months ago in 2024, AI was not even part of our initial conversations. We had a lot of other meaty areas, topics, challenges to solve for. Fast forward to today, and AI really has shifted from a side part of the conversation, a nice to have, to front and center, and truly a requirement.
Yep.
And Kli, you certainly have been at the center of that movement. So that's going to get me to that first question, I promise. We're seeing more and more organizations spin up and create dedicated AI teams and councils, similar to teams like your own. So can you tell us a little bit more about Colgate's team and its creation and perhaps mandate?
Yep. Yeah, so first, great to be here with all of you. So really quickly about Colgate, because usually when people see an AI person with Colgate, they're just really confused, like what's going on. So Colgate, yes, the toothpaste company, as well as other things, not the university. So we make all sorts of products, Palmolive and so on. We're in virtually every country in the world. No, we are not owned by Procter & Gamble or another conglomerate. Another question I get all the time, although I know I'm joined in the room somewhere by Procter people and others. So yeah, we're a global consumer goods company. We're actually in more than 60% of the households on the planet. 1 in 3 of you probably buys one of our products, but since we're in Northern California, maybe most of you buy Sensodyne. I won't hold it against you. It's just more expensive and it's not any better. It's up to you. So my role, I'm the global head of AI for Colgate, which is a role that is increasingly becoming much more common. And when my role was created in mid-2023, about 6 months after ChatGPT came out, it was a novel thing to have a central person that's in charge of AI. And now I think it's very common, and probably in the next couple of years, every major company is going to have someone with that remit. So my remit is really AI soup to nuts for the company. So I'm the enterprise risk owner, so I report out to the board on risk related to AI. Technology choices go through me, learning, education, and upskilling go through me, and then strategic build, so big focus areas where we want to put a lot of company resources against those will happen on my engineering team.
And what changed from when you originally started speaking to us, where AI was not front and center, and so over the past 12 months to where it truly is a requirement today?
Yeah, what's funny is many executives, when ChatGPT first came out, had Bitcoin on their mind, and the zeitgeist was, yeah, it'll be like Bitcoin and it'll come and go, and these tech people are making a big deal about it. And so that obviously changed, really quickly, and especially as the models just significantly improved so rapidly that it became apparent to everyone that this is not something that you can ignore, and just the incredible amount of investment flowing in. Our stakeholders, or a publicly traded company, asking more and more questions about what we're doing, that really brought AI front and center.
Mm-hmm. And then speaking to that, there are obviously other players in the space, and you had to be quite deliberate about choosing a product, a platform that can support your AI strategy, vision. What were some of those key considerations that you were thinking about and keeping in mind?
Yeah, so we started talking to Retool about 6 months or 12 months ago. We're a recent customer, so we really just signed on to Retool in the past 3 to 6 months and are bringing them on board. And a lot of that was at the very beginning of when agent offering was coming into Retool. And I'd say it was pretty clear by the beginning of this year that the future was going to be all agents. Not everything had settled yet, but it was clear that it was going to be agents. And it was clear looking at Retool's roadmap that that was something that you all were taking very seriously. And, at that time we were already, thinking really deeply about enterprise controls and how do we actually do this at scale. We have about 30,000 employees at Colgate, about half work in manufacturing and half work at the desk. And our actual technical team, we're not a tech company, so the technical team is very small, right? And so we have like a huge responsibility where with a small number of people, we have to bring capabilities to a large number of people, where technology, fundamentally is, mostly in back office. So Retool was a place where it seemed like you all as a company really were with it and getting where things were going and covered the things that we needed to cover from a risk governance standpoint, which I'm sure we'll get more into later. So we really thought that the roadmap and direction was where we thought it was going, and was enterprise ready, which is something in many cases that we didn't find from other platforms we were looking at. Open source and other places, N8N and all the Langs, LangFuse, LangGraph, LangChain. We looked at everything and competitors and felt like Retool was the best fit.
You somewhat mentioned this, but were there any deal breakers?
Yeah, I mean, deal breakers were just things like role-based access control, secret management, being able to set up templates and different spaces for different groups. There's just a lot of nitty-gritties when you get into it and you're talking about software that you ultimately want thousands of people to be able to engage with that just have to be true. There's a quote, I think it was David that showed it earlier. I forget what it was, but essentially there are non-negotiable things with enterprise software, and Retool had those out of the box, and then the roadmap was very much where we thought that the industry was going.
Great. So we hear a lot about organizations really getting stuck in the pilot prototype phase, but you have actually made that leap and a fair amount of time ago. So you've shipped an internal AI hub. That's incredible, first of all, and has really helped create thousands of employee-built agents. Can you maybe talk to how you close that gap between testing, ideation, and then production?
Yeah. So maybe it's worth going into a little bit just about how we view democratization of AI capabilities at Colgate and the path that we went down early on, which was we built an internal platform, internal tool called AI Hub. So this is about 6 months after ChatGPT came out. And we let everyone in the company have access to it. We wanted everyone to be able to use ChatGPT. And in mid-2023, that was not the most common step. Most companies were significantly limiting access to IT groups or to other smaller groups and had a lot of concerns about security and other things, which were all easily worked through if you just had your legal people talk to OpenAI's legal people, right? But there's a lot of misunderstanding. So we said we want everyone to have it. And the reason why, and I think this is interesting, was not nominally because we thought it was going to help the business grow and all those things. The reason why was if some of you remember, there was a study that LinkedIn and Microsoft ran a couple summers ago. They run a work index study every year where they ask people around the world work-related questions. And they asked the question, how many people are using Gen AI for work purposes? And how many of you are bringing your own Gen AI tools? And it was something like 70% of people said that they were using Gen AI tools at work, and 70% of those 70% were using their own tools because their company didn't provide it to them. So purely from a risk standpoint, giving everyone access to a language model was a critical thing for us to do. Leave aside, the benefits that it will have for the company. The fact is, the technology is available to everyone, and it's free, and it's super powerful. So if you weren't putting it in the hands of your employees, they're using it anyway and creating a lot more risk for your organization. So we built this platform called AI Hub, and we said, we want everyone to start using it, and we gave training. And then the second thing, and this sort of gets into where we think the journey with Retool is going, is many of you might be familiar with custom GPTs. A custom GPT is something that you can build in ChatGPT. It's basically instructions and some files, maybe a tool call. It's a bot that you can build. And there was a really powerful API that OpenAI released, the Assistance API, that lets you build these custom GPTs. So what we did was we exposed that to everyone in the company. We said, everyone in the company, you are all allowed to build your own, we called it assistants internally. You're all allowed to build your own AI assistant, which is just instructions, some files. It does RAG and some other basic things. With a little bit of governance around it. You can build it. No one's going to ask any questions. You can share it with up to 20 people. It's all fine. If you want to share it with more than 20 people, with an entire department, an entire line of business, then we have a lightweight governance process you go to, and there's some approvals, and we check your evals. And that took off like gangbusters. We had 3,000 people build them, and about 300 to 500 get deployed globally. So deployed as in like deployed to an entire department, function, line of business. So it was incredible to see how many people, wanted to be builders and wanted to engage and had a problem to solve and really just needed like the platform to do it and some guardrails that let them play first and then have a pathway to get it approved. So it's always funny when I get these surveys and I hear survey outputs like, how many production AI use cases? 1 or 2? Or none, right? And first, it's hard for me to define that because in a sense, we have several hundred assistants that are in production that are being used around the world. Somewhere around 5,000 people a week use one of those assistants. And to me, those are production AI use cases. Like they're out in the world, they're being used for productive business purposes, but they weren't built by a software engineering team with lots of things around it. And they're limited in what they can do. Chatbots themselves, unless you move into agent territory, are limited, but the set of use cases that they can accomplish is huge. So that was something that we did early on that really took off and surprised us.
That's great. Given you have risk and AI, literally within your job, can you share some advice to folks that may be stuck in the earlier phases?
Yeah, so when I talk with other people in my position, I find the most common setup at companies is there is someone from the legal department who's in charge, legal or compliance, who's in charge of risk, and then you have someone from usually IT. I actually don't report up through our IT lineage. I report up through analytics, which is also a little bit unique, but usually someone from IT who runs the tech side. And usually those two people don't get along. Because if you're just in charge of risk, then mitigating risk is easy. You just default to no for most things. And then, you've done your job and you're safe. And then if you're in charge of growing the company, it's really easy to get shut down with any risk-based argument, especially at a large company, where you have a lot of equity. So the difference for me, so I'm in charge of risk. I also have a group of people who includes my chief legal counsel and head of IT infrastructure, and we work really close together. But what that means is we seriously consider the risk of inaction, right? Like, I truly believe and hope that most of you who are here today, also agree that the world is changing. Virtually every business model is changing, how you operate or what you do. And I think a lot of companies are letting the frog get boiled, which is like, if you've never done this experiment, I encourage you not to do it, but you put a frog in boiling water, and frogs can't detect small temperature changes, so everything seems fine until they're boiled, right? And I think a lot of companies are stuck in this incrementalism phase where they just feel like things will move and we'll get there. And I don't think that's how it's going to play out at all. I think all the indications of how much investment's coming in, how quickly technology is changing, how quickly government, of all groups is getting into this, suggests that things are going to change very fast, and leaders really do need to treat this like a once-in-a-generation change. And that creates business model risk. And so if you look at our risk framework, one of our key risks is business model risk from inaction. And we think it's a serious risk if we don't act quickly enough. And so if you put that on the table, that balances out a lot of the other risks that come from bringing in AI and how you do human and oversight and all the other things that you have to get worried about really are seriously balanced or outweighed by the fact by the question of, will my business continue to exist in 10 or 20 years if we don't really take this seriously today?
Mm-hmm. I love how you're evaluating this as opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Thank you. So let's switch gears a little bit. And we touched upon enterprise grade, enterprise ready, but what does that actually mean in practice? So you're a very large enterprise. Can you talk about the guardrails, standards, security measures that you need to account for?
Yep. So I won't get too wonky because I don't know the crowd, but there's lots of regulations coming out around AI. So there's the EU AI Act, which like most things done in Europe is like a huge overreach, and it's just for Europe. It covers the whole world. And the critical thing about that, for you to know, if you're thinking about this for the companies, is regulations related to AI, both in Europe and in some states in America, are based on the use case, not based on the technology. This makes it very, very difficult to figure out how to manage AI use cases, because it's not like, what's the software, and does the software meet GDPR, or does the software handle confidential data? It's the usage of the software. So ChatGPT is not approved or not approved. You can go to ChatGPT and ask it to review a resume, and that is a high-risk regulated use case in Europe. If you're doing it in the US and you think you're safe, if one person from Europe applies to your job, then you're now in trouble, right? So the way that the regulations are shaping up is really challenging to deal with, and it's use case focused. And then on top of that, you have all the considerations around bringing in builders who have not gone through whatever training your company probably has for software developers to make sure that they build things securely and handle secrets in the way that they should be and follow solid. I'm sure many of your companies have training and best practices that you have your software engineers go through. The rest of the people in your organization, the people who are going to bring scale by using things like Retool or other democratized capabilities, they don't know about any of those things, right? And so, the mantra has been, we need to set up systems in a way where you can't do something if you're not supposed to do it, right? And if you're able to do a thing that you're not supposed to do, it's not your fault, it's our fault, right? Because we didn't configure it properly. So when we think about enterprise-ready, platforms really that are going to let us bring technology to the masses, there's one. Can we have a governance process over use cases? And that we have a separate platform, and we push people through an AI registry. But Retool is configured such that we can stage gate as applications and agents move through environments. Second is user groups. We want to have different user groups with different capabilities. Role-based access control. We use Okta. We need to be able to pass through Okta tokens and know, is the person who's having an agent query a data set on their behalf, are they authorized to use it? And then the rest of the 100-page cybersecurity checklist, which I don't know all the things, but I know Retool passed all the things, which is not typical. So we really needed a way to segment populations and have granular enough controls that if we don't want you doing a thing, you can't do it. And that's the safest way to set up systems.
Your take, can vibe coding be brought to the enterprise?
Yeah, so I'd love, so someone at Retool, Bree, gave me this quote, vibe coding for the enterprise, which I really love and really sort of stuck with me. So, software development and SaaS as a whole is completely transformed. Some companies have figured it out, some SaaS companies, some purchasers of SaaS have, some have not. But the fact is, it is transformed. It's not going to be transformed. It's changed, and the rest of the world is trying to figure out what that means. And it's changed for two reasons. One, because you have coding agents. So the cost to develop software is exponentially less than it was. So just the determination about, do I build something or do I buy something, is much different because the cost to build is much lower. The business model for SaaS companies is different because their cost to build is lower, and the need to have one platform that fits everybody, because you can only invest your capital once, is kind of getting lifted because it's easier to develop more things to meet different market niches. And And then 2, you have these coding agents that let people vibe code. So you have lots of people who have not previously been able to engage. Now they're able to vibe code. And so the whole talent landscape of who are the types of people that you can hire to build things is much different. And of course, like the canonical issue with vibe coding or democratizing anything is, oh my God, then they'll build things, which is like so funny. Like I literally had a person say to me, I said, yeah, we're going to bring this in and we want people to develop. This was about assistants. And it was an executive and they said, oh my God, they're going to build AI assistants. I said, that's exactly what I told you they're going to do, right? So the gut reaction is like, oh my God, we can't let people do this stuff. And that very much is tied to, I think, where vibe coding is now. If you look at things like Firebase Studio or other, there's lots of other open source and paid for vibe coding platforms, which is they're too open, right? There's just not enough control for what people can do, how they manage secrets, how they talk to databases. Are they over-querying or under-querying? Are they following our enterprise design system guidelines? Like we have enterprise design systems. We like our things to look generally similar to each other, so it's not a hodgepodge. And those just really aren't controls that you can easily get through a vibe coding platform. You could hack your way into it. But all of those things are sort of out of the box in Retool, and some of the things that I heard about for the first time this morning that are coming into Retool with shareable functions and Figma integration really bring that to light, which is I do want people vibe coding because I want the people who are closest to the problem to be able to be engaged in building the solution, right? They're the ones who really know at the lowest level what the issues are. And if you're thinking about agents in particular that are taking over tasks, like those are not tasks that even managers understand. It's the people at the lowest level who do the work. And that work generally is not written anywhere. Like we all, especially large companies, have policies and procedures, right? But most of the work that happens day to day lives between the people that do it. And if the person changes, the nature of the work changes a little bit. And so we felt it's critically important for the people at the lowest level to be able to be builders, and that means they need to be able to build agents and AI-powered applications. And vibe coding makes that possible, but vibe coding within Retool, we were one of the earliest users of Assist, really makes that feasible for people to do.
I know you have a lot to say on this topic. You wrote an article for the AI Journal on democratizing AI. You spoke to this, but can you share some more specifics about how this lower barrier to entry for and build, what are the types of profiles that you're seeing at Colgate starting to build that perhaps weren't 12 months ago?
Yep. Yeah, I think, for me, democratization is sort of like a dirty word. When people hear democratization, it rubs some people the wrong way because, the sense is, well, not everyone should be doing all the things, and this is the reason why we have specialization, which is true in some senses, but also the latest language models are very, very good. Like if anyone following, there's a benchmark GPQA Diamond. This is a test of PhD level skills, and latest language models do better than people with PhDs. I have a PhD in chemistry, and when I ask GPT-5 stuff, it answers better than I would answer. And so like I am fully disabused of the idea that specialists are as special as they were. There is still a place for specialists to come in, but the models are so good, right? And if you take ChatGPT, there's 700 million monthly users of ChatGPT. That's like almost the country of China. And so treating ChatGPT like a thing that you think you're going to control how people interact with it and what they ask it and what they get from it is, to me, just like foolish. We're already not there, and that's not where the world is going. So it's already democratized. It's like that's the net of it. These tools are free for everyone to use. People around the world are using them. I think we just hit a milestone, I forget what it was, that ChatGPT, or in the aggregate usage outside the US, is higher than the usage in the US, which is the fastest that's happened for major tech offerings. So it's everywhere, it's global, it is democratized. So language models are democratized. You have to start there and then say, okay, what are we going to do about it, and how are we going to make sure that's democratized within our company, the way that we think is the is the right way to do it. So yeah, the piece I wrote in the AI Journal was mostly just our surprise at when we did open up the capability, the number of people who really wanted to engage with this and like spend a significant amount of their time building. And we expected when we looked at the functional breakdown for it to, mostly be marketing people and, where you sort of see tech first adopters. And that was not the case at all. Like we had people who were plant managers in different parts of the world, loading plant documents that are written in German and having a language model ask a person who speaks Greek how to fix an instrument when the manuals written in German, right? Huge use case. We have people around the world doing that. We have people in our sales teams, using AI to help them create better sales pitches. So it really was everywhere, and there's very little functional variation. We suspected that it was going to be a lot of marketing people, and that broadly wasn't how it panned out. Maybe that was because initially the image generating models weren't as good, and now they're significantly better, but we really saw everyone across the company engaging in a way that was surprising.
And speaking to that, you have shared that AI really only changes a business when everybody uses it. So you've spoken a bit about how folks have adopted, obviously, in kind of more than your wildest dreams. But what about education? So how do you, or what advice would you give to leaders like yourself, in terms of making sure everybody's empowered, equipped to use? Yeah.
The everybody piece is so important. So, we're thinking a lot about processes, AI processes, and, this maps cleanly to sort of how workflows in Retool are architected, but AI processes, right? And the problem with, the thing with democratization that you often find happens is people will take the task that they have and build an automation around it, which is great. It makes them able to do the thing that they do faster. But if you work in a team, right, and your task is now 10x faster, and then you hand it off to a person where you had to email them a thing and it sits in their inbox queue for 2 weeks because they have too much, you haven't actually solved a company problem. Like, you haven't moved anything faster. And so it is critically important for everyone to be engaged. Otherwise, we don't have processes that get transformed. And especially at complicated companies, everything is a multi-stage, multifunctional process. So everyone really needs to understand how this stuff works, or else we're not really going to transform processes. Some process transformation, a lot of it needs to happen from the top down, but some of it needs to happen from the bottom up. And even just, some people say that language models kill agile, which I haven't decided if I agree with or not. But it is the case that when you have a project team that's formed, if half those people, know what they can do with an agent or an AI workflow and a language model, and half the people have no idea, that is a non-functional team to begin with. Like, they don't even, like, imagine you have a team and half the people know what Excel is and half the people don't know what Excel is. You can't even work together because just your conception of how much time it takes to do different tasks and how you sequence things and who does what completely falls apart. So it's really important for us that everyone knows. So from a education standpoint, we've done a sort of multi-tiered program. So we have the basic mandatory asynchronous, everyone must do this training, and it fulfills our regulatory requirements. By and large, and then we also have asynchronous training that's optional. By and large, we focused on small group, we call community-led training efforts, and this is the same way that we're doing the Retool rollout, which is I have about 20 people situated globally, one per function and per line of business. They're my AI leads. Each one of those has about a dozen ambassadors, or people on the ground. And all of them, there's about 300 globally, have gone through Train the Trainer training. Mm-hmm. So they have training materials to be able to run a lunch and learn, to be able to run a workshop. And they're going through Retool Train the Trainer, so that way they learn how to build agents and then can train everyone else how to do it, right? And literally what they do is they run sessions around the world. Like, we're close to 100 now sessions that are groups of 10, 20, up to 50 people sitting with a local person who knows what they do, like as a local salesperson who's been through training, and they show them actual things that they do. Mm-hmm. And nothing moves the needle better than that. It's the most expensive way to go about it and the most time-consuming way to go about it, but like I said before, if you're actually taking this seriously and you actually think in 5 years your business model will not be the same anymore for you to still be viable, then that's the approach that you have to take, because you really have to bring everybody along. It has the other benefit of people are scared about AI and what it means for them. And a good way to make them more scared is to roll out corporate training that comes from like a big city in the US. And a good way to make them less scared is to have a local person tell them, we want you to do it, and I'm going to show you how to build your own thing so you can become an AI person. Actually, our training is called Super You. It's called Super You training. And that's the way that we frame the whole thing, and it's all framed around you are in control of your own destiny using AI. We want to teach you how to do it, and we want to give you examples that are useful for you, and that has a huge impact.
I love that. So we are together rebuilding the AI Hub, so 2 years later. What other meaty areas, meaty challenges are we going to be addressing together?
Yeah, so if you look at Colgate's strategic focus areas, so one is obviously broad-based. We feel like everyone needs to be able to engage and needs to be able to bring their own value. Strategic pillars that we have are innovation, marketing, and operations. And if you look at how those spread, they're essentially split between what we call, what would be a growth driver and what would be like an efficiency or productivity driver, right? So innovation is the heart of what we do as a company. We launch new products to meet new consumer needs or new niches, or fulfill pain points that people have around the world, and they vary everywhere around the world. Second is marketing, which really is about marketing content creation. There's lots of other things in marketing, but if you think Gen AI specifically, where a lot of the energy is getting focused is marketing content. This is Ad Week today, and I'm sure it's all about Ad Week this week, and I'm sure it's all about AI and marketing content. I think there are a lot of people at Cannes having existential crises. So that's marketing, which for us is about growth and innovation. Innovating the way that we communicate with people, and also growing the business through marketing. And then operations, which is our supply chain and R&D, which is really about efficiency and productivity. So where are we looking to engage? One is just our broad-based platform for agents. So we're bringing people onto agents in Retool to have them learn how to build agents. A thing that we're currently speaking with Retool about is similar idea to AI Hub, which is we need a discoverability platform for people to be able to find agents and ultimately build towards multi-agent architectures where, if I have an agent that I've built and I sit in R&D and someone else has an agent that they've built and they sit in regulatory, the dream is if those agents are good and they're all can communicate via A2A, which Kent tells me is the case, then we can start to build these much more complex A2A structures that do much more complicated things, having the people on the ground build the building blocks, right? And then we can start to architect on top of it. So we're looking at what our AI hub looks like in an agent future where agents need to be invoking each other. Mm-hmm. And then specifically, around our verticals of marketing content in particular, we think that that's something that, especially now with Nano Banana and Sora 2 coming out, that we can orchestrate through workflows and take on a significant amount of that work. Mm-hmm. And on the operations side, it's just like limitless opportunities for automation. There's just a lot of data work that comes in, and a lot of intelligence type reporting that we think agents can do a significant amount of.
So I feel a lot of people here are looking at you as inspiration. Who do you look to? Companies, individuals, resources, publications?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Ethan Mollick. If anyone's familiar with Ethan Mollick, so he's a key opinion leader here. He has a roundtable group that sometimes I go to, and he writes a blog post about every other week. So if you're not familiar with Ethan Mollick, strongly recommend Ethan Mollick. He has a framework actually for running AI, which is Leadership Lab Crowd. So Leadership Lab Crowd, and that's a framework that we've very much internalized with how we think about things. I mean, everything that I just talked you through is really that. How do we get the crowd on board? Leadership we haven't talked a lot about, but having a person in my role is very important for leadership, to be able to talk directly to leaders. And then lab, which is really your advanced tech team that, when Nano Banana drops, who are the people who are spending that week figuring out what it means and bringing it to the business before all of your vendors tell you what they think it means for you, right? And so that's lab. So Leadership Lab Crowd came from Ethan Mollick, and I'm a big fan there. There's a daily podcast called the AI Daily Brief, Maybe some of you listen to it. We're in San Francisco, so probably more than when I ask a New York crowd. But I listen to that religiously every day. I think in general, the thinking on that podcast is aligned with how I think about it, and a good way to stay up to date. And then I still, from the time that I was a data scientist, get a Medium Daily Digest, and I read the Medium religiously. Not so much because I think all the articles in the Medium are right. Like a lot of them, don't make any sense. It's not clear, you wouldn't follow it. But it gives you a very good feeling for the zeitgeist of the community of people and what they're thinking about and where they're developing. So less so from a literal standpoint, this person gave me code and I'm going to send it to my team and then they'll be angry at me because I sent them some random Medium article. It's more, what are the things that people are thinking about in the data science and AI engineering community? So those are the 3 places that I go. Follow Ethan Mollick as a key opinion leader, AI Daily Brief to find out what's going on, and I subscribe to the Medium to understand, at the practitioner level what the zeitgeist is.
Perfect. And final question, because we are wrapping up, where do you see the biggest potential leap in our space, in our industry in the next 2 years?
It's all agents, and it's not a surprise, I guess, for me to say that, but it's all agents. And I think a lot of it is just the way that agents will transform your business. And there was an interesting graphic that I saw where it was the y-axis was competitive differentiation over time was the x-axis, and it was split out by expertise, data, and technology, and maybe another one. And the basic idea was that the importance of expertise and expertise in particular over time in being a competitive differentiator for you is going down. And the thing that becomes more important is the 4th one was change management. Does your organization get it, and do they have a way to engage with the technology? And 2, data. Is your data in order, and is it structured in a way that agents can talk to it? I don't think it's controversial to say that agents are, businesses are going to be transformed. Agents are going to be running a larger and larger part of business with people managing agents. No one knows exactly how it's going to look or if we're going to have contract agent employees. But it's definitely going to be the case that agents are going to be doing much more. And if you want to take advantage of that, you need to have your organization on board and have a way for them to engage and engage quickly, which for us, this is why we brought on Retool. We think Retool gives people a way for people to engage and do it in a way that's safe and secure. And you have to have your data in a place that agents can talk to it. And not surprisingly, the people that understand your data, the ontology of your data the best, are the people at the lowest level, who are the people who you want building stuff directly at that lowest level, because then they will define the ontology of the data naturally, which will then allow you to connect other agents into it and do, the thing that everyone wants to do with it, which is multi-agent or ambient agent stuff.
Awesome. Well, we're wrapping up. This was incredibly thoughtful, candid. You are a fantastic leader. I hope for everybody here today that you have new ideas and curiosity sparked. We are all at different phases of this journey. The team, my incredible team, is all here today, so we'd love to continue that discussion. And with that, please, 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 a big round of applause for Kli.
And for E-Ray over here.
Awesome.